Hello, I'm Elijah Henderson from Cryptid Studies Institute. Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolf's bane blooms and the moon is full and bright. Now, clearly it's not a full moon out tonight, and I don't know whether a man can change from one thing to another. Now, we're in Land Between the Lakes tonight, and there have been tales of skinwalker-like creatures here before. But tonight, we're standing in a location where in this very spot, a man was camping, and he seen a dog man in this very spot. Off in the distance in the forest, there's a whippoorwill hollering, and you may be able to hear it. But as the story goes, a whippoorwill's calling means that a death is coming, and hopefully that's not the case. But in one of these connecting fields for this area, a bow hunter was allegedly found. He was dead, mangled, eaten up, and they say that a dogmanish creature was the perpetrator who did it. Now, we don't know if that's true or false, but it's very interesting. Our current focus point of research is none other than Land Between the Lakes. Land Between the Lakes, or LBL as it is called by many, is comprised of about 170,000 acres and came into being as an experimental recreational location in 1963 under then President John F. Kennedy, and was operated by the Tennessee Valley Authority, but is now governed by the USDA. LBL for several years was considered an International Biosphere Reserve or World Heritage Site until it was removed from the UNESCO program on June 14, 2017. More than 800 families were displaced in the creation of this national recreation area, leaving many individuals filled with bitterness and rancor in their hearts. Many displaced residents were fighting mad as the government confiscated generational land to develop the park, and many of those families did not want to leave since a great abundance of their kith and kin were buried there on their old homesteads and community lands in some 228-plus documented cemeteries. LBL is positioned directly between Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley. The lakes are connected by a man-made channel located at Grand Rivers. The park has approximately 26 boat docks and a staggering 300 miles of undeveloped shoreline. Land Between the Lakes is the largest inland peninsula in the continental United States. The park as a whole is massive in its scale and scope, and has a little something to offer almost everyone. If hiking's your thing, there is 216 miles of hiking trails, 70 miles of mountain bike trails, and 100 miles of trailways specifically dedicated for those who have a passion for horseback riding. If by chance you prefer the serene sights of nature, there are more than 700 acres of grasslands that are a free-range home to both elk and bison. Every year the park draws an innumerable amount of hunters, fishermen, and campers, bringing in an estimated $4.2 million in retained receipts, and an additional $8 million in government funding annually. Camping seems to be a major draw for the majority of park goers. The park, in point of fact, has some 1,400 campsites, not including an almost infinite amount of backwoods camping areas, but should you choose one of those secluded and isolated sites, beware, because something of a dark and sinister nature stalks the remote landscapes of Land Between the Lakes. For as long as anyone can remember, mysterious and dark stories have been told about the area known as Land Between the Lakes, even before it was called Land Between the Lakes, back before it was a natural recreation area and was simply called Land Between the Rivers. Stories of ghostly lights, hauntings, Indian curses, and even haggard and baneful old witch women that lived and occupied the deep recesses of the forest. As if that wasn't enough to make one leery of being in that region, there have been consistent tales of creature sightings going back well over 100 years, many of these tales being passed down from generation to generation, tales of a massive wolf-like beast that stands well over 7 feet, walking on 2 legs, covered in thick fur and a stench like an open grave, a beast with piercing red eyes and a muzzle full of cruel, razor-sharp teeth that terrorized the land. Some tales of this horror have suggested that it is the spirit of a powerful, outcast Indian shaman with the ability to shapeshift who was hunted down and killed by locals and members of his own tribe for practicing dark and evil magic. The lore says that he was hunted down and killed while in his lupine state, but with his dying breath is said to have uttered a curse on the land and vowed to return. Other stories imply that the fearsome beast was actually a European settler who brought the old world curse of being a werewolf with him when he settled in the region. Ironically, from research that we have gathered, to this day there are still local families that genuinely believe that another local family is cursed to be werewolves and stalk LBL occasionally, killing individuals in the park and surrounding areas when the opportunity presents itself. Some believe that the creature is a misidentified Sasquatch, but those who have come face to face with this fiendish carnivore swear that it looks just like a werewolf straight out of Hollywood. It is told by witnesses that going back to the mid-1970s, that old men would gather and sit around town and talk about the beast between the rivers that would come by night and slaughter their livestock. Horses, cows, pigs, and chickens were often found torn, tattered, and dismembered. The creature is said to peer through curtains, hide in barns, and terrify everyone in the vicinity with its deep-chested, baleful, mournful howls. Every year, it seems, people are still having sightings of this wolf-like monster, and those that see it firsthand vow that they will never return to the park. Now we here at Cryptid Studies Institute do not think that the beast of LBL is a werebeast, shapeshifter, or a true lycanthrope. However, we cannot say for certain because, like William Shakespeare penned centuries ago in his immortal classic Hamlet, there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy, science. We tend to believe that it's a dog man, and in that form all the time, but again we openly admit that we cannot say for certain. To tell the tale of the beast of LBL will be a powerful undertaking, and will take multiple parts to give the kind of coverage that it truly deserves, and we plan to bring you multiple segments and strive to keep you updated on anything that we may find, and hopefully we'll have a comprehensive documentary on the subject, and other dogman and werewolf stories from around the country in a year or so, Lord permitting. In this first part of the LBL series, we'd like to share with you our personal recent account, so here goes. For years, we have been fascinated by all of the sightings of this dogman/werewolves in LBL. People have claimed to have been run out of the park by these creatures, and I do mean creatures plural, because one witness claims to have watched a mother creature and 3 pups cross the road, so there seems to be a population of these beasts roaming around. In addition to sightings, there are numerous reports and witness accounts of these hellish monstrosities killing multiple individuals in the park, and yet somehow these killings never become known to the general public. Some estimates claim that the body count is as high as 9 people, maybe more since the 1970s. Following up on one of these alleged deaths, it led us some 41 miles into the park and into a dark and mysterious holler that is adjacent to a soybean field where one of the, I'll use the term again, alleged bodies was said to have been found. My family and I acquired our backwoods camping permits and set up our camp in the same location where an individual, who will remain nameless, had a dogman/werewolf sighting in the spring of 2016. The individual had been camping and was still in the confines of his tent when he witnessed a large bipedal wolf-like creature walk past his camp at the edge of the woodline. Now I'd like to remind you that this location is adjacent to where the body of a supposed victim of the beast of LBL was found. We set up our tents, built our fires, put out trail cams, and hunkered down for a night of investigation into the phenomenon of this fearsome beast. But that is not how our evening went down. After the sunset, we lit a row of tiki torches and placed them around the camp, and sat around the fire talking and listening to the sounds of nature. And my mother and I kept telling my dad we heard distant howling and things walking around in the woods all around us. And at one point I got very uncomfortable while he and I were filming a Nightmare Nugget segment, and I told my dad again I heard walking and dog noises close to us, but he didn't hear them as he is losing some of his hearing from too many years in the construction field. We went back and sat down around the fire once again, and before long we noticed that there were cottonmouth snakes in a high abundance around our camp. I think they were coming out to try and catch frogs and fish in the creek near our tent. Now my mother doesn't mind Bigfoot or Dogman, but she draws the line at snakes, and it was soon decided that we were packing up and going home. So we started reloading the car, and as we did, my dad saw that there was something watching us from the other side of the creek with orange eye shine, and we thought that maybe it was a wild hog, but we have learned since that hogs don't have that color of eye shine. We wanted to get a closer look at whatever was watching us, so, armed with a flashlight, a tiki torch, and a large copper spear, we crossed the creek to get a better look, and because we had a trail cam in a tree over there as well. As soon as we crossed over, we had to dodge a cottonmouth lying in the road to get to our camera, and whatever was watching us was now in the brush, still observing us with curious intent. The eyeshine had been lowered to the ground, and now it was standing at about 2 feet off the ground, bobbing all around, and that is when we realized it was just a curious raccoon. As we watched this interesting little fellow watch us, we loosened our trail cam from the tree where we had it installed, and as my dad began to unloosen it, further off in the forest I noticed another set of eyeshine that was much higher than that of the raccoon, and it was electric blue. And I told my dad that I saw eyeshine, and I pointed the flashlight to where I'd seen it between these 2 trees, and my dad said, "What is that black spot? Is that a shape?" No sooner had the words left his mouth did a large tree where the blackness was get hit, bumped and shaked, and there was a sort of loud grunt or growl from the same area, startling us both. We slowly backed away to the creek, avoiding the snake in our pathway, and back to camp where all that remained was to put away our camp chairs and our torches. We decided to stay a little bit longer and see if anything else would happen, and we continued to hear loud walking in the woods on the other shore of the creek, but nothing would ever come into the light. We sat there keeping a vigilant watch for snakes and anything else that might come close for about 30 minutes when my dad said, "Elijah, if you still have that dog whistle of yours, blow it and see what happens." I took the whistle and blew it, but I don't think I had it set to the right pitch because nothing happened. So we waited a bit and he said, "Try it again." And I adjusted it again and gave it a powerful blow, and 40 seconds later we got a terrifying response. Something big and massive in scale started tearing through the woods in our direction, snapping limbs and breaking trees as it made its way toward us. In fact, here's part of the audio. You can hear some of the tree breaks.
Stupid airplane.
Behind us.
Yes,
We ushered my mom and sister into the car as my dad and I stood guard with spears and torches until they were safe, and then we ourselves got into the car and we left. I believe the only reason that whatever it was didn't come all the way out of the forest and harm us is because we had these fiery torches. When we traveled the 40-something miles and got out of the park, we stopped at a convenience store to get a cold drink, and I asked the clerk if she had ever heard tales of anything in the park, and she said, people are always telling her similar stories as ours, and other things that happened to them in the park. She was very familiar with the beast of LBL. Looking back on the experience, my dad and I think that whatever it was that growled at us with the blue eyeshine was probably a dog man, and we suspect that we angered it by interrupting its intended dinner. You see, dogmen are alleged to frequently make a meal of raccoons, and we scared away the raccoon that was watching our camp, and it may have been on the menu before our interference. We may have interloped into a situation that didn't concern us. As soon as our work schedule permits, my dad and I are going back into that dark holler to finish our investigation without my mother and sister. In fact, if any of you would like to join us there or on another one of our adventures and investigations, contact us and let's see what we can work out. Until next time, I'm Elijah Henderson, and if you don't mind, please take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel, go like our Facebook page, and go and follow our Instagram page, and also be sure to check into our website that we're now creating, cryptidstudiesinstitute.com. You can find it in the information on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. And once again, if any of y'all out there have had any kind of an encounter, like a Sasquatch encounter, a dog man, or anything that you'd like to share, please let us know, because we'd love to hear it. Or even if you'd like to be on our radio show as a guest, hit us up and let us know. We're always looking for new and exciting guests. And make sure to keep checking in, because we have amazing things planned for the near future. But until next time, take care.